There is a lot to be said about space. In the original Star Trek series, Captain James T. Kirk called space the final frontier. The late Sir Douglas Adams, via The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, describes space as big, really big. You wouldn't believe just how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the road to the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. Many attribute the origins of the study of astronomy to Aristotle, who lived in, I think, the 4th century BCE. But interestingly enough, the origins of that field of study go way back further. The earliest evidence being as far back as 32,000 BC, when bones were found to be engraved with pictures that look like constellations and moon phases. And since then, the study of astronomy has continued to evolve both in its own form and align for religious and cultural needs. Our understanding of the universe is constantly changing and being redefined. And as with any field of study, you're going to encounter some misconceptions and myths and untruths along the way. So in this speech, we're going to explore some of these myths and facts. Let's start with our solar system. First myth: Pluto is the farthest and last object in the solar system. That is wrong. The edge of our solar system is believed to be comprised of Pluto and the Kuiper Belt, a donut-shaped thick disk containing millions of icy particles. Further beyond that, we have the controversial and not yet completely proven Oort cloud, which is a much further out, again, icy cloud, but the proof of that has yet to be completely verified. But if it exists, it is said to have expanded halfway out past Pluto and halfway to our nearest sun. And both the Oort cloud and the Kuiper Belt is where it's believed that comets have originated from. And speaking of comets, myth 2: comets and asteroids are similar, if not the same objects. Wrong. They are completely different things. Whereas asteroids are made out of rocks and metal, whereas comets are made out of dust and ice and water. Myth 3: the asteroid belt is chock full of rocks and is too dangerous to navigate across. Wrong. While there are millions of asteroids in the asteroid belt, and the asteroid belt is about 140 million miles across, but despite that, and despite there being millions of asteroids within it, the average space between each asteroid is about 600,000 miles, despite what you may have heard C-3PO say in Star Wars. If you try to navigate through anything, most likely you're going to come out without a hitch. The odds of being hit by an asteroid are millions to 1. In fact, in the 70s, NASA's Pioneer 10 was the first spacecraft to navigate through the belt and came out unscathed. And again, speaking of asteroids, myth 4: asteroids are more uniformly round, like planets. Wrong. Most of them are, in fact, resemble potatoes rather than spheres. In fact, some of them are just lumps of debris held together by gravity. Interesting fact, if you didn't know this, the term asteroid is derived from the Greek word of the same sounding name, meaning star-like, because if you look through a telescope or if you look through a camera lens, they resemble pinpricks of light. Now, on to the universe. Myth 5: any part of space not occupied by a major body such as a planet or star is completely empty. Wrong. Space is fuller than we think. The space between planets, also known as the heliosphere and the interplanetary space, respectively, is filled with solar winds, cosmic rays, and dust particles. Now, interstellar space, which is the space in between stars, is is filled with matter, such as neutrinos, which are ghostly particles that pass through virtually every solid substance, charged particles, dark matter, protons, atoms, and molecules. And speaking of which, all stars, myth 6, all stars will eventually collapse to create black holes. This is not true. A star has to be extremely big with extremely big mass in order for it to successfully collapse into a black hole. We have no worries about our sun doing this. It's too weak for that to happen. When it does run out of fuel to burn, it will collapse, but it will become a cool white dwarf star. And speaking of collapsing, myth 6, the lack of a functional spacesuit or vehicle in space will cause you to freeze and or explode. That's wrong. The good news is you won't freeze explode. The bad news is you will die, but you will die differently. You'd have maybe half a minute before the vacuum of space takes all the oxygen out of your body. Likewise, when you have an atmosphere and you have air pressure, that determines the boiling point for liquids. When you don't have an atmosphere, the boiling point of any liquid will decrease exponentially, which means that any liquid water, mostly water and maybe some of your blood, but mostly water liquid, is going to start boiling a lot faster. I mentioned, and it will cause your body to expand maybe, but not explode. Let's end on a lighter note. Speaking of implosions and explosions, there is sound in space. Nope. Despite what 100 sci-fi movies and TV shows may tell you, there's no sound in space. Even if something were to happen, like an explosion or a sonic boom, you need things like atoms and molecules or solid objects for sounds to bounce off on. But there's nothing really in space for that to happen. They're all atoms and molecules, but they're all spaced so far apart and tiny that they can't do anything constructive. In conclusion, space is a natural wonder containing countless mysteries that will continue to span throughout and after an existence. I wouldn't tout going out there, but if you did, the fatality rate is a mere 2.3, but you should still bring a spacesuit. Thank you.